Mwahahaha. Ha 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 ha. Welcome to Smash Metafiction. I just wanted to say I'm sorry if my evil laugh scared any of our young listeners. I was just playing character for the purposes of this podcast, but don't worry, it wasn't real. This week, we dig through the junk drawer for scraps of our old favorite stories and stitch them together into a brand new quilt of creativity that we like to call Collaboratory. I'm your host. My name is Rebecca Sugar, and joining me this week, I'm very excited about three special guests that I look up to a lot as creators. First, we have Werner Herzog.
Good evening, a pleasure to be with all of you.
Neil Gaiman.
Hello, my name is Neil Gaiman, Magic and Whimsy.
And finally, very excited about this man, a true auteur of our time, Michael Bay.
Hi, I'm Michael Bay, and my most famous film is Bad Boys 2, and I like explosions.
Ah, true, just pearls of wisdom every time he opens his mouth, this man. I'm just so honored.
Boom.
So, for those of you who aren't familiar, the way that Collaboratory works is each one of us has brought a main dish in the form of a character, and each one of us also brought a side dish. One of us has brought a setting, one has brought a goal, one a MacGuffin, and finally, a genre. We're going to reveal what everyone brought, then reduce them down into basic archetypes, and try to write a new story together out of those archetypes. So now, it's time to open the Tupperwares, unwrap the foil, and see what everyone brought. Werner Herzog, who did you bring this week as your character?
I have chosen to bring Scrat from the Ice Age series of films. Scrat is a melancholy rodent that longs for a single acorn, but is perpetually disappointed in his attempts to get it. Although his moments in the film are intended as comedy, I do think there's a deep pathos in our desire for what we need and our failure to acquire it.
Wow, that's really great. Wow. Neil Gaiman, what character did you bring?
Yes, I have brought the character of the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. He's a bit of a mischievous sprite, a forest creature of sorts, who will appear here and there throughout Wonderland, offering cryptic clues and hints, often rather unhelpful and obtuse in their nature, but always intended to lead Alice on the right path, whether she sees it or not.
That's really amazing. Michael Bay, what did you bring this week?
So when I look to do a movie, I kind of figure out what can we make a really good action set piece. So I've, watched quite a few films in this series, 8 to be exact, and I noticed that there's a lot of potential with a weapon that they use in these films. So therefore, one of the ones who I think is most prone to destruction, I'm going to bring Draco Malfoy from the Harry Potter series. His wand looks like it can cause lots of booms.
Okay, that's great. Wow, Draco Malfoy. I didn't expect that from you. You have a lot of hidden depths, I guess, Michael, that people don't see. Well, the character that I brought this week is from a really old movie, but I think it's held up as a classic for a long time because it has a lot to teach kids, I think. I brought the character of the Cowardly Lion from The Wizard of Oz because I feel like when you first meet him, he seems really mean to Dorothy, but you then soon realize that it's just because he's really scared all the time. And he goes back and forth between being overly aggressive and being really afraid of things. And I think it just has a lot to teach us about how we can all overcome toxic masculinity and lack of confidence. Wow, so we have 4 really good characters here. I'm really excited about this. Let's move on now to the side dishes. Werner, what did you bring this week for your side dish?
I brought the genre. The genre I'm bringing is the Western, and it's a genre that I think is able to explore emptiness, the emptiness outside of us, and the emptiness inside of us. And also it has horses in it, which I don't enjoy as a director, but I do admire that other directors are willing to look into the face of darkness.
Okay, so Vester, is that with a V or is
W probably?
Okay.
Although I am
yes.
open to your creative spelling ideas.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. Thank you. Yes. Okay, Western. And Neil Gaiman, what did you bring for your side dish?
The side dish I was tasked to bring was the MacGuffin, and I have reached into the misty depths of human history and brought forth the cap of invisibility from Greek mythology. This was the headgear of Hades, god of the underworld, and any who wore it could remove themselves from sight. So, removed of its specifics and reduced down to its archetype, I believe that this could be some sort of object designed to conceal or disguise whoever makes use of it.
Wow, that's really great. Michael, what did you bring for your side dish? I'm really excited to see what it is that you brought.
I agree with Werner. I also really like Westerns, and it's kind of funny that mine happened to be, I was playing this video game called Red Dead Redemption 2, and there's plenty of explosions. We blew up a train, we blew up a mansion, some fire, so mine would like to be... Did you
say you blew up some fire?
Yeah. Anyways,
okay.
I meant a mansion, okay? Sometimes I say things that don't make sense, but my movies turn into hits. So my goal, we have to pull off one last job with our gang in order to have enough money to leave the criminal life.
Okay. All right. So we have got to pull off one last job. That's a real good goal. So finally, I've brought the setting, and as all of you may know, a big part of my childhood when I was growing up that really influenced my storytelling is a lot of video games. And I brought a setting from a video game that really speaks to me. I brought the setting of Stardew Valley. So in Stardew Valley, the main character inherits a farm from their grandfather, and it's just a really nice, peaceful village that's kind of removed from the modern world. Everybody there just does a lot of like farming. There's some little stores. It's just a nice, supportive community. Also, it's a game that's really good for LGBT players because all of the characters in the town are pansexual and you can date them no matter what your gender is. And there are some nice little kind of low-level fantasy magical elements present in the town too. They're all very friendly and supportive. It has a little bit of a sort of Miyazaki-ish vibe, but it's...
Well, I like the sound of that quite a bit. Thank you, Rebecca.
Oh, that's right, Neil. I forgot. Yeah, your background with Mononoke, was it?
Oh, I have a background in a number of things, some of which may or may not be clear on a particular internet biography that may have been read recently. But I love fantasy and I love magic, so this all sounds lovely.
Well, to jog your memory, Neil, I believe that you did the English translation for Princess Mononoke.
Oh, of course.
I know you've done so many things, you probably can't remember all of them, but you did write the script for that, I believe.
That was the one with the wolves, correct?
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Anyway, so let's move on into the meat of this. Now we're going to work through the beat sheet and try to write a movie for this thing in real time. So the 12 steps of the beat sheet are opening image, theme stated, catalyst, break into act 2, B story, fun and games, midpoint, bad guys close in, all is lost, break into act 3, finale, and closing image. So we need to start off with an opening image. Werner, why don't you start us off with that?
I think this film begins with the Cowardly Lion watching Scrat going after one of his goals. I'm not sure what goal. Perhaps he's trying to harvest a particularly difficult carrot in this valley, and he sees this and he is inspired and thinks about his gang and how he failed them in a previous job they were trying to pull off. And he sees that carrot come from the ground in Scrat's hand and thinks maybe one last job is the answer and he will receive the metaphorical carrot of victory.
Oh, that's a really strong opening image. That's really good. Next up, we have theme stated, and I'm going to go for this one. I think the Cowardly Lion, he's going to go back and sit down in his house and be thinking about what he just saw, that he really wants to go out on this one last job. He used to have a criminal past, but he's been able to put it behind himself until now. But he feels it calling back, and I think this is going to be a really good time for kids to learn, like that. You can think you're over something, but it's still easy to get pulled back into your bad habits. And even when you think you've grown out of them, you haven't always. And as he leaves his house, he's going to see the Cheshire Cat. And, this is a sort of a whimsical valley. So I can see all these characters as like, the lion has a house and Scrat has a farm. So, it's a little bit of a Winnie the Pooh kind of thing. It's whimsical animals that live in houses and wear tiny shirts and nothing else. And he's going to see the Cheshire Cat, who's like a nice gentleman walking down the street past him. And he's going to tell him that he's going to go out and try to get rich with his last job. And the Cheshire Cat warns him, because we're at our theme stated moment, that I know you want to go out and be a tough bandit, but if you put on a bandit mask, it doesn't change the person who's underneath. And also, even if you get all the golds in the world, that's not going to keep you warm at night. So up next, we have the catalyst. This is where some sort of event enters the main character's life. And
so here's how it goes. Draco, he recently came to this Stardew Valley because he got kicked out of his Harry Potter world. He's working in the mines in Stardew Valley because, they all can't just farm and stuff, and you got to blow something up. So let's say there's a mine there. And, he's got his wand, and he goes, Exploliolus, Expelliarmus, Vada Kedavra rock. He's blowing stuff up with that, with his wand. So
I didn't know you were a Harry Potter fan, Michael. Those are some really good spells. I didn't know you knew all of the lore.
The technical effects in that movie are great. Just the wand stuff. I really like it. Okay, it's really fucking good. Okay. So, anyways,
sure. Sorry, I don't want to correct you, but this is supposed to be a podcast for kids. So if we could keep the language down to.
Have you ever been on one of my film sets? I say fuck all the time. All right. Anyway, so he's blowing up the mine. And so mine, he's harvesting some ore, and he's like, oh, this is how I'm gonna get rich or whatever and get back to Harry Potter world, whatever that's called. He blows up something, and a chunk of something appears, and he's like, oh, it's gold. Well, it's not gold. It's actually zombie flesh. And he looks at it, and he's like, this is not...
In the mine? There's zombie flesh in the mine?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I don't want to step on your creativity. Go right ahead, sorry.
This is not what I signed up for. But he thinks to himself, oh, if I want to get into good graces with Stardew Valley or go back to Harry Potter world, if I save the town from this zombie thing, then I would get out of my criminal life. So he's got friends back in Stardew Valley who he considers part of his crew. So he takes the hunk of zombie flesh and runs back to them and is planning to tell them, this is how we escape our shitty life of crime. How's that for a switcheroo, people?
Mind-blowing. That's really creative, Michael.
Fuck yeah.
I like that one a lot. Anyway, Neil,
you're challenging a lot of my assumptions about narrative.
So, Neil, what are you thinking for a break into Act 2?
Well, so when you break into Act 2, you need to cross a threshold of some sort. You need to leave your everyday world behind. And so Draco has returned to Stardew Valley, where he has gotten in contact with his old friend, the Cowardly Lion, and of course, Scrat, their tiny, squirrely companion. And the three of them get their gang back together in order to save Stardew Valley from this previously unseen threat. So they travel into the mine, and they go down to this area where Draco had previously seen this unexplained bit of zombie flesh, and the three of them continue into the mine through a dark passage that seems to wend down past miles and miles of stone and crystal until they emerge into the underworld, where they are surrounded by the spirits of the dead, and where the zombies nearby are preparing for their invasion of the surface world, and they realize that this is the heist that they need to perform this day. Yes, their one last job is to sneak into the very heart of the underworld itself and steal Hades' magical hat from atop the ruler's head. That is the task set before them today.
And there's volcanoes in the underworld, just so
of course. Inverted volcanoes.
I like that. Is it a lava? That means lava, yeah?
Among other things, yes.
Okay. And, there's a sun down there, too. I mean, we got, a sunrise, a volcano sunrise,
Volcano Sunrise is the name of my next collection of short stories. How did you know, Michael?
Well, and I expect, some other stuff, too. Maybe there's some glass down there. I don't know.
Michael, this is we want this to be a podcast that teaches a lot of really good lessons to kids. And one of the important lessons is about taking your turn and, waiting until it's your time to contribute to the story. So,
are you done?
Yeah, sorry. A lot of respect for your work. Werner Herzog, now it's time for the B story. This is supposed to be a tonally different, oftentimes lower stakes counterpoint to the A story. So we have the A story, which is this heist in the underworld, but the B story is oftentimes a friendship or a romantic relationship or something like that. So what are you thinking for the B story for this?
I'm thinking that Draco is going to realize that this place is familiar to him on a fundamental level, as though he has been removed from this place where he was before and is entering into it again. And so the B story becomes the evolving relationship with the place he is in as he realizes that he is actually Hades' son. And that's why he's so ridiculously good looking. Seriously, have you seen that child?
Okay, so that brings us to the fun and game section. This is the part where we really get to explore that core premise of the movie, that really strong, simple core premise that we built this around. I think in this section, we're going to have a sort of wide variety of scenes, a montage of a lot of different adventures they're going to have here in the underworld. They could meet up with some famous historical figures. Maybe they run into some musicians like maybe Jimi Hendrix or John Lennon or someone like that, and get to play some music with them, a little musical number that they all do together, along with, Bach and, Napoleon, because it turns out he's really good at the drums. And as they're going down there, Draco's going to be really uptight and very serious all the time and kind of mean to the other characters. I think that the Cowardly Lion is going to be trying to get through to him, but having mixed results, because the Cowardly Lion at this point in the story, he's kind of gotten over his stuff, but Draco's still really holding on to a lot of his anger. So I think that's going to be a struggle with them. Also, Scrat's probably going to steal a bone from some skeleton, and that's going to cause a very funny chase scene that I think the kids will enjoy a lot. And also, I think this whole section is just going to be a really good time for all of the characters to meditate and learn about the finality of life and death, because that's something that I think that kids need to learn as well. So they're going to talk to them about how they used to be alive and now they're not anymore, but it's okay because they had a really nice time when they were alive. And that everybody's going to die sometime, but I don't know, maybe I shouldn't tell this to kids. Maybe let me rethink this. Somebody else take a turn. Who's next? We're at the midpoint. Do you want to take a shot at that one, Michael? This is a part where some sort of new plot twist is going to come in that's going to add an additional conflict that our characters have to deal with, in addition to the problems that they've been dealing with up until right now. Oftentimes it's a bit more serious than what they've been doing so far. What do you think for that one, Michael?
Sure, as my buddy Neil said, we need to get some sort of invisible hat, which is cool. So they're walking along and all of a sudden there's a underworld highway, okay? There's semi-trucks carrying brimstone. We commandeer one of the brimstone trucks and we're racing down the highway, and it looks like the king of the underworld or queen of the underworld, either one, is sitting there with the hat, and we can see it, and there's flames shooting up out of it. So we're driving this truck. I'm going to go ahead and say the Cowardly Lion is not driving it. I think he's hiding in the back. I'm going to say Scrat's driving it, because how would that work? It'd be cool. Leave some to the imagination, And the Cheshire Cat is just sitting there laughing. And I guess Draco's driving it. And they're getting closer and closer. And this is a perfect opportunity to have lots of things blow up, crashes, and get some really nice shots of the underworld.
We got a nice action scene here. That's really exciting. People driving fast on the road. We can have some moments where everyone's sort of put on their seatbelt before they get in the car and, use their turn signals as they're serving around the explosions to teach, proper car safety, because that's, I think, a really important lesson. Next up, we have Bad Guys Close In. This is a section where things are a bit more serious than they were in the fun and game section earlier. The characters now have to deal with multiple problems all around them at the same time and trying to deal with all of the issues they have, and it's almost getting too much for them to bear. So what do you think you want to do with this one, Neil?
The crew of adventurers have taken their brimstone truck directly into the heart of the underworld, and they are within the very shadow of the palace of Hades himself. And as they begin to approach, they have a secret entrance that they've lined up for themselves to take in, that they may be able to creep about the palace unseen. However, when they arrive at the entrance, they find the skeletal and undead guards waiting for them, and they quickly surround them. Of course, the Cowardly Lion is flabbergasted. How could this possibly have happened? This plan was foolproof. Once they got past the Hell Highway, everything was supposed to be fine. But then, of course, it is revealed that they were betrayed by one of their own. They were betrayed by the Cheshire Cat, who has made a deal with the devil that he might live forever. And all it took was him to sell out his friends. And as he walks away and the guards close in around those he called his friends, He turns back and says, "You see, one can wear a mask, but one never changes who one is underneath."
Fuck!
Wow, that's really sad. Yeah, sometimes you think someone's your friend, and then they can turn out to not be so good after all, and that's a really hard thing for someone to go through. Let's move on to Werner. We're now at the all is lost moment. This is the darkest part of the film, where it seems like everything has been lost. So what form do you think this is going to take, where our heroes have some introspection and try to figure out how to move on from here?
I think they're in prison, awaiting judgment, probably. But they can see from where they're sitting in the prison the cap of invisibility. And so they must sit here in this place full of brimstone and death, obviously. Forcibly rendered immobile both by the prison itself and also their inability to achieve their own goals and desires. That's pretty grim.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh right there. It was just,
No, nihilism.
yeah.
Explosion!
Thank you, Michael.
Whimsy and magic. Yes.
Thank you, Neil.
Death.
Thank you, Werner. So, okay, now we're at the break into Act 3, where our heroes have to cross some other sort of threshold and move into a final arena of conflict, where the big climax is going to take place. So, all of the three heroes, Scrat, Draco Malfoy, and the Cowardly Lion, are all sitting together in their jail cell, and none of them are talking to each other, because after they've just been betrayed by someone who they thought was their best friend, the Cheshire Cat, they don't feel like they can trust anyone. They probably can't trust each other, because after someone hurts you like that, it can be very difficult. But eventually, while out of boredom, Scrat starts tapping on one of the pipes to the beat of the song that they played earlier with Jimi Hendrix and John Lennon and Napoleon. And all of them start playing a little bit of music together, and they open up and realize that despite the fact that they were betrayed, they still had a lot in common with each other, and they still had a really deep, rich friendship at the center of it that was worth repairing and holding on to. And they decide to let themselves trust each other again. They realize if they work together, they can actually get out of this pretty easily, because you see, they have a lot of powers that they're not always aware of. Draco Malfoy tells Scrat, you're small and you can sneak around. You could go and sneak and steal the keys from one of those guards. So he goes and does that. The Cowardly Lion tells Draco, oh, and you have that wand, and you have all your magic stuff. You could use it to cast a spell to distract some of the guards so that they run away. And so he does that, and then they're running out together. And then they come around a corner, and they see a whole bunch of the undead skeletal guards in front of them. And Scrat looks up at the Cowardly Lion. He says, hey, you're a lion. You could probably mess them up pretty good. And they say, hey, Scrat, you could talk? And then he's like, yeah. And they're like, but you're a squirrel. And he's like, yeah, I mean, you're a lion. And that other guy was a cat. Like, we can all talk. It's fine. And they're like, oh yeah, that's a good point. So then the Cowardly Lion, he just mauls all of the skeletal guards, and it's really, really terrible.
You mean great?
Sometimes things get a little grim, and I think that that's an important lesson for kids to know, too. That things can get kind of dark sometimes. Now we have the finale. This is the final showdown, the final climax. Michael, do you want to take a shot at that one?
Well, I feel like you guys are finally embracing my style, so this is great. As, the Cowardly Lion is mauling those guys, lava spilling up on either side, and then you get into this 360 panoramic aerial shot just as they're running up this bridge to get to Hades, and just lava slapping everywhere, and it's just this mad run. People are breathing heavy and sweating because it's lava and it's hot. Every once in a while there's a and they just keep running and running and running, and you have stalagmites and stalactites just falling, and they're breaking up the bridge, and they keep running, and then they get separated, and then they flow down this lava river, and again there's and they just keep going, and then all of a sudden there's that glass I was talking about, and the glass, and then all of a sudden they're at the doorstep, or rather the brimstone step of Hades, and then they break out into a huge fight, and there's explosions. It doesn't matter what happened. The content doesn't matter. It's a beautiful scene.
That's really good, Michael. That was really, really creative of you. So we just have one last step. That's the closing image. Neil, how do you think we want to end this thing?
Well, so after a rather gripping half-an-hour chase scene, it sounded like, we finally end at the throne room of Hades. And by now, our friends realize that the jig is up. They have no chance of sneaking in. They just have to accept whatever's given to them. And then they realize that the throne is empty. And that Hades actually left the underworld many years ago and has no interest in running it. And sitting on the throne is the cap, which also serves as his crown. And so Draco, who has previously been established as Hades' son...
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
As did I, until mere moments ago, decides to walk up to the throne, sit upon it, and place the cap upon his head. And the other two look at him and say, "Well then, what now, Your Majesty?" And then Draco just smiles, and we cut to black.
That's a really good ending.
I think they went further into the criminal life, let me just say.
Well,
Yeah.
it was a change in their lives, to be sure.
That's really a really strong image to go out on.
Hey guys, you were.
Oh, gosh.
You were doing Collaboratory in here, right?
Oh, hey, M. Night. I didn't.
I've got ideas.
Didn't we place some sort of restraining order upon him?
Yeah. It's for the listener. That's M. Night Shyamalan who just showed up. He
Hey.
Yeah. I mean, we had you in a couple episodes early on, but yeah, sorry we haven't been able to.
No, it's all right. I've got an idea.
return
I've been listening the whole time. So.
Oh. Well, that's okay. I think we already ended. You know.
Yes. No, this is fine.
Next time when we do one, we'll call you. And you can be in that episode. How's that sound?
Here, just hear me out. This movie is great. The ending scene, fantastic. I think it's just
thank you.
Missing like that oomph, that punch to the gut that'll leave the audience really thinking. You know. Okay, after the characters start going to the underworld. The savvy audience may notice on the second watch through that the colors got really muted, except for the color orange. On the second watch through, you'll realize the orange that's popping out is the same shade of orange as Scrat's carrot from the first scene. And so, through a series of beautiful flashbacks, every character other than Scrat begins to realize that something's wrong, that what they're seeing may not have been real this whole time. And
No, not again.
we find out that Scrat, his carrot farm, he's been creating hallucinogenic carrots that put people into a sleep state where he can modify their dreams, right? It was the entire time his goal was to rule Stardew Valley. So really, the characters are in fact seeing a ruler come upon the throne, but it's not Draco. It's Scrat. And his
You mean the explosions weren't real, M. Night?
I mean, we could put some explosions. You know what? What is an explosion?
I'm just going to go ahead and go. This has been fun and everything, but I swear your first 2 episodes of Collaboratory were fine, M. Night, but the rest just...
I really wish that we didn't have this, clause in the podcast where everything that we come up with in it, we have to then make literally in a movie, exactly whatever people say has to then go into a movie, because now we have to put another one of these twists in it. And it's going to cost a lot of money.
It's fine. It's fine. I know it's a little sloppy. We can rewrite a lot of your stuff so that the twist makes more sense. But it'll be great. No, it'll be a blockbuster hit.
Oh, well, thanks a lot, M. Night. We always appreciate your contributions.
How about superheroes? Those movies are working out.
Nah, I don't really
what if Draco's
superheroes.
bones are real bad? or Draco can be played by Samuel L. Jackson. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
I'll be okay with that. Can the carrots explode?
Smash Metafiction is produced by Dan Mulcairn, with logo design by Claire Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme song, The Builder.
You can find us on Twitter at SmashFic Podcast and search for the Smash Fiction Podcast on Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube.
Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Smash Fiction is made possible thanks to our supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast. Please consider donating as little as $1 each month. It helps us keep the show going, and we have great rewards and extra content for those who help us out.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.
I brought the only normal character in this. It is April Fool's.